All right. If you think about what is happening in the world, we think we know everything. You look around Slush, there are all kinds of amazing new companies here. But the bottom line is, everything you think you know about business and life is actually wrong. So in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to try and tell you why. And to do that, I have to give you a quick, intensive course in 4 different areas. My name is David S. Rose. I am an angel investor. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm the founder of New York Angels, one of the largest angel groups in the world. I'm the founder of Gust, the online platform that powers most of the entrepreneurial world. And I'm an associate founder of Singularity University, which is studying the phenomenon of exponential technological growth. And so what I'm going to give you now is a distilled Singularity University course in the future. So 4 things. Number 1, the question of the long tail. The long tail is everything that is happening with retail right now. Let's see if we can get the slides going over here. Okay? Okay, our clicker isn't working. If we can advance the slides. All right. Okay. Well, I can do it without slides, but oh, maybe we have another clicker. Hold on a second. All right. Okay. Anyway, let me give you the introduction then while we're getting the slide clickers done. If you think about the way the world works, everybody who was not here in Slush, who was in Finland today, is operating in the old world. If anybody is operating in the new world today, they're here among these thousands of people at Slush, right? So you are the cool kids. You are the guys who know what's going on. But those people are living in the past. You're living in the present. But the world is now moving so fast that it is critical that you live in the future. And that's what, here we go. Okay, so let's back up a sec. All right. Good. First thing, we're going to talk about the long tail. This is retailing, buying things, selling things, finding your customer. Second thing is Web 2.0, which is an old world description of something that's happening, all the technology that's around you here at Slush and everywhere else in the world. The third point is globalization. I'm from New York and I'm sitting here in Helsinki. You've had people on this stage from all over the world. And that's just a tiny representation of what's going on. And then the fourth thing this all leads into is the question of exponential growth and the singularity coming soon to a world near you. All right, so let's start off with the first one. Retailing. If I told you, okay, we're going to try an experiment. I'm going to give you a little space in downtown Helsinki on a nice street front, and I'm going to tell you to open a bookstore, and here's a budget. What are you going to do? You're going to go out and buy books to stock your bookstore, right? How would you figure out which books you want to put in your bookstore? Well, being a smart person, what you do is you would first take a list of all the books, you look at all the databases and find what books are available, and then you say, okay, I'll rank them all by sales order. What books sell the most? And then, surprise, surprise, having done that, you go and put your books in your store, the ones that sell the most. Makes a whole lot of sense. And if you analyze the books that sell the most, okay, roughly, what do you think, what number do you think they are? What percentage? Well, it turns out about 20%. About 20% of books sell most of the copies, and those are the hits. On the other hand, if you go beyond those, what happens? Well, it turns out that the reason you would only put those books in your store is because I gave you a physical space. If I completely removed the walls from this bookstore of yours and said you can have any book you wanted, what would you then do if there were no additional cost? Well, you go out and you get every single book in the world. That's not surprising, because then you could service all of your customers. And it turns out that all of those teeny-weeny little things at the end, those are the niches. So you have the head and you have the long, long tail, which is all those individual niches of products and customers. So let's think about bookstores themselves. There used to be a whole lot of small neighborhood corner bookstores. They're all gone. You know what killed them? The superstore. This is a Barnes & Noble superstore in New York. You know how many books are carried in a typical corner bookstore? About 15,000 books. Sounds like a lot, right? But you know how many books are carried in a Barnes & Noble superstore? Try 130,000 different titles in one store. And guess what? Just like Barnes & Noble and the other superstores killed the corner bookstore, somebody's killing Barnes & Noble. And you all know who that might be, right? And how many books does Amazon have? 23 million. So Barnes & Noble had 10 times as many as the corner bookstore, which is why they're dead, and Amazon has 23 million books compared to 150,000 that you can put into, 130,000 you can put into your Barnes & Noble. And here is the really fascinating thing, and let this be your first lesson that sinks in. Amazon sells more books outside the top 130,000 bestsellers than they sell within them. So the bulk of Amazon's book revenues come from books that are not available at the biggest physical bookstore that you can do. Okay, so what is it that is driving this whole world? Well, you've got things on the supply side and the demand side. On the supply side, you have now the ability to have centralized stocking. This is just one of Amazon's dozen centralized warehouses where they can, not in the middle of downtown Helsinki or in downtown New York City, but out in the middle of nowhere, they can have a giant warehouse carrying all this kind of stuff. Number two, you have the whole question of delivery on demand. And this is logistics. Things like Federal Express in the US and all of these carrier services that are now available to everybody. So you can get your thing delivered anywhere, anytime. You place an order for a book at 10 o'clock at night, you'll have it in your hands the very next morning. And then, of course, where this all leads to is the pure online e-commerce store. Now, that's what's all happening on the supply side. Meanwhile, on the demand side, to make this all work, you've got a whole bunch of other things that are happening. First of all, the internet. Duh, we're all connected. Now, everybody here takes that totally for granted, but 20 years ago, we weren't all connected. There was no such thing called the internet over here. This has completely changed the fabric of the world, and all of our existing structures, all of our businesses, all of our society, all of our government is based on the old world, not the new world. So what are the major things that run on top of this connectivity? Well, first, with everything connected to it and everything available, you now have the ability to search, and you can find and discover anything out there. Okay, having done that, you can then give it a try. There are sampling tools. You can read a chapter of a book. You can download a clip of audio. You can see how you look at a new dress online. All these kind of sampling tools make the whole ability to buy things online much easier. And then, if you're only coming in for the things at the top, the Hunger Games or Harry Potter at the top of the tail, what pushes you out? Well, you have recommendation engines. So that's the ability for the online systems to tell you, hey, you haven't thought about the things down here at 100 and 200,000, but you, based on your existing proclivities, your things you bought, you might want to get that as well. Okay, that's all I can tell you about the long tail. Now, let's think about the whole world of technology and computers. This used to be called, in the old world, Web 2.0, which is, whoops, let's back up here a second. There you go, sorry. So these, talk about long tail, these are all stores here in the long tail. Imagine each of these websites not devoted to Amazon like everything in the world, but instead just tents or ice cream cone makers or scuba flippers. These are all individual things that you can buy in defined stores. All right, Web 2.0. You heard this term a whole lot about 5 years ago or so, 6 years ago. Now people don't even use it because we've all subsumed this into the way we understand the world. These are all the technologies and all the approaches that define how all the companies here at Slush operate with each other and with you. And it's really important to understand that this is not the way the rest of the world works. And I will give you an example, okay? How many people in this audience really understand the difference between a web browser and a search engine? If you think you understand the difference between a web browser and a search engine, raise your hand. Okay, that's about 100%. Duh, you think I'm pretty stupid, right? Okay, watch this. Audio, please.
We're here in Times Square, New York, to find out what is a browser.
A website that you can search on, I think.
I call it the search engine. That's what I call it with the browser.
What is a browser?
Browser is a search engine. Browser is a search engine. Browse, right?
It's where I search through, like, to find things.
Okay.
It's where you put your search terms, correct?
What is a browser?
Google. What else?
Browser is what you use to look at internet web pages.
What is a browser?
What is a browser?
I use the Yahoo. No, is that not a browser?
Do you know what the difference is between a search engine and a browser?
Well, not exactly. I mean, no. I don't know. I guess the internet is just where you find anything, and I guess you browse the same way. Hell, I don't know.
A browser is when you know what you're looking for, and a search engine is when you're searching for something.
I assume a browser is the way to get on, but no, I don't know much.
So do you know what the difference is between Google and your browser?
No, not really.
What browser do you use?
I use Firefox.
What made you switch to Firefox?
My friend came over to my house and erased all my other browsers and installed it and said, you're using this now.
What browser do you guys use?
Google.
I have AOL. We go through broadband.
The big E with the Explorer on it. I'm not a computer guy. I might be the wrong one for this.
What browser do you guys like to use?
We use Google.
I use Google. Google predominates the market, obviously, but occasionally I like to go to Yahoo just to get in some business.
Yeah, I use Internet Explorer and Mozilla Firefox.
Oh, is that your internet browser? Help!
Have you heard of Google's browser, Chrome?
No, I haven't. No.
CHROME? No.
What is that?
Crown?
No, I have not.
Have you heard of Google's Chrome browser?
No. Should I use it?
Have you heard of Google's Chrome browser?
Chrome browser? No way.
Okay, now you want to revisit that thought? You thought I was stupid asking this question? That is what the rest of the world thinks. People in Slush are not the rest of the world. Things are changing here. All right, so let's figure out what that actually means. You've heard of the browser wars, right? The platform wars. You've got Apple versus IBM, used to be IBM, it dates me, Microsoft. You have the whole world of what's the platform that's going to win? Well, the answer is there is a winner in the platform wars, and what the winner is the browser. So now it doesn't matter whether you are on Windows or whether you're on Linux or whether you're on Apple or iOS or Android. It all comes down to the browser. We now have a universal platform for everything, and that means that now you have enabled the concept of software as a service. So software is no longer a packaged thing you buy at a store or something you download and install on your machine. We are now living in a world of the cloud. At the same time, that cloud can appear anywhere. It can appear on your desktop, it can appear on your mobile phone, it can appear on a tablet in your pocket, it can appear on a wall right next to you. It doesn't matter. We now have this completely ubiquitous world where there's one set of things that's available anywhere, on any hardware, on any software, in any environment in which you live. And what does that enable? That now begins to enable, first of all, collective action. Not just people who are hanging out here in the exhibition hall at Slush, but we're talking about everybody who is connected to any of these networks. And then, having done that, what can you do? Well, you can begin to use one network to sign on to another, whether you use OAuth or any kind of system that connects you up. It makes it easier for you, of course, to sign on to another network with only have one profile and one account. But the really powerful thing about this is that when you do that, it's not the single sign-on, it is the actual connectivity of your social graph. So now both networks get to share everything about you. You get to use all of your information and your background from one thing and put it on another. And you know what this whole collective world means? The numbers change faster than we can say it. Take a look at the current number of people who are on social networks. You are talking about nearly 1/2 of the planet is on a social network. And you want to put these numbers into perspective? If these were countries, you're talking about Google Plus being bigger than China, Facebook being bigger than India, Twitter being twice the size of the United States of America. Just think about what happened if all these users got into one army and went out to do something over here, right? And so other things that are happening in this Web 2.0 world are the whole concept of self-service. We are losing an entire world of intermediaries out there. This is the first self-service restaurant called an automat back in the 1930s. Today, think about what happened to grocery shopping, right? You go from the old grocery counter with the person behind the counter getting your food for you to a supermarket where you pick up your own stuff and all you have one person who checks you out, to a completely automated world in which there's no checkout person, you check out yourself using a scanner, to a world in which there's no checkout, you just go and now you get a scanner as you walk in the door, you scan things and then you walk right out the door at the other hand, to the point where there's no retail store. This is a subway station in Korea, where as you're waiting for your subway in the morning, you use your phone and you scan a QR code on a picture of the thing you want. By the time you get back to your home that evening, it's already been delivered for you. So what this is doing is this is completely changing the nature of retail, the way we buy things. So that means the places that are going to be functional as retail locations, okay, are limited to ones in which you have lots of foot traffic. For example, airports. But even in airports, things are being changed. You're talking about kiosks that can do the thing with an individual person, self-service, no salespeople need apply. But even these have a problem. And the problem with these is they require people to come and actually stock these kiosks. Well, there's an answer for that. Technology has got it. This is a little teeny kiosk, a new kiosk designed by IDEO, which has no people. It has no window so you can see it. It uses Federal Express or UPS to send out a canister when it needs to be replenished, and it's automatically replenished over here. This is the future of retail. And it's not just retail, it's everything. You know what this is? This is a picture of the website of my barber. When I want to go get my haircut, I go online, I make my appointment, and my barber automatically takes it. Okay, other things that are changing the world. You've got communications, whether it is wireless, VoIP, with everything now turning into bits, and that means you can manipulate them. This was in my lifetime. This was at the 64-65 World's Fair, where you were using video for the Conference of the Future. Okay, well now it's standard in boardrooms. It's standard on your computer, every laptop, every computer you get. This is now actually part of the whole world in which you can connect up. Everybody is now a journalist. You can take pictures on your phone. You can send it anywhere in the world. This is where you're sourcing news from over here. Okay, next, quickly speaking, globalization. You've got outsourcing and crowdsourcing. Everything can be done wherever it is fastest, most efficient, cheapest. It can be anything. It can be physical devices. It can be intellectual property. You can be doing it by people, by teams, by companies. One of my portfolio companies has got a whole lot of crowdsourcing. This was a company over here. This is a company called CrowdSpring. A friend of mine wanted to have a logo designed for their business. This company promises if you put up the project online, they'll have 25 people do the work for you and go ahead and you can choose. He didn't get 25 people. He got 125 people who designed a logo for him that he could use for his business over here. And so whether you're looking at crowdsourcing, whether you're looking at the ability to manufacture anything anywhere, when you're in a world of total open source, where you can have operating systems and applications and tools, things built by everybody together. You know how many open source projects there are right now, separate projects? Over 600,000 of these things. The best well-known, of course, is Wikipedia, where you have the world contributing to an information world. And this is all leading us to the singularity. And that's where computers and humans merge. This guy is Ray Kurzweil, who wrote the book called The Singularity is Near. And he points out that Moore's Law, you're all familiar with Moore's Law, things doubling every 18 months, that means that instead of going things linearly, if you advance things linearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the curve is a straight line and it looks like this. On the other hand, if you begin to advance things exponentially and you double them every whatever, then all of a sudden it starts off small, this curve, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then wham! It changes the entire nature of what you're talking about. And so what that means is in a world today where technology is becoming an exponentially larger portion of everything, this is the percentage of the gross domestic product in the US that is exponentially growing into IT, and at the same time, the cost of IT is dropping exponentially. What that means is everything eventually will be available, online, and free. And it doesn't matter whether you're talking about retail or transportation, whether you're talking about construction or agriculture, entertainment, whether you're talking about religion. You can do your confessions online right now. Take one last example. Think about medical technology, as Ray says. Think about the explosive power of computing combined with the increasing miniaturization, be able to do face transplant, reverse engineering the brain, then taking that, putting it in a computer, downloading that, and where does that end up? That ends up with the Matrix, where you're now plugged in. You have machines that think, or people who are automatically tied into Gaia. And when is this going to happen? According to Ray Kurzweil, in 2045, within your working lifetime. So the bottom line is, everything you think you know is wrong. Thank you.